How's it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Terrifier 3. Spooky season is in full swing in October, the best time of year to talk about horror films. And lately, for some reason, October has been all about clowns between Art the Clown and Joker 2. Still, what better way to talk some more horror in October than to diving into some more mayhem with Art the Clown? After surviving Art the Clown's Halloween massacre, Sienna and her brother struggle to rebuild their shattered lives. As the holiday season approaches and they embrace the Christmas spirit, Art the Clown returns, determined to turn their holiday cheer into a new nightmare. And my relationship with this franchise is kind of tricky. The first Terrifier, it was definitely on my radar a lot as a horror fan, just due to the word of mouth, how gnarly it was, and it surely was a gnarly experience, but I was not a big fan of the overarching story, if you will. Terrifier 2, however, laid a nice framework to build a story and interesting lore that gained my interest in seeing where this arc could go. Regardless of the fact that it's Halloween time and not Christmas, I do think it's fun aesthetically how the holiday is utilized in the film, and the choices made in how Damien Leone brings Art the Clown to Christmas. From the retro visual stylings, the mall and decorations, outside of all of the absolute mayhem that unfolds, it is kind of cozy in a way. All of that Christmas influence does seep into the kills that Art the Clown inflicts on so many different people throughout the film. And the plethora of gory kills, like the way that Art the Clown gets his suit in this movie, is wild to say the least. Obviously, one of the major sticking points that everyone discusses about each and every Terrifier film is the gore, because I do think for the most part, as horror fans, that is the thing that we're looking forward to most with these entries. And each entry so far, it feels like their end goal is to top the last one in all categories of nastiness. With some of the kills that we saw in Terrifier 2, I did kind of doubt that they could somehow top certain nasty things like the bedroom sequence, but I have to admit, there's a couple different sequences and I really feel like they managed to craft even nastier, gory kills than I ever anticipated. We're talking legs being torn apart, arms being ripped off. Pretty much nobody is safe from Art the Clown in this movie if you interact with him. Man, woman, or child, you are not safe from Art the Clown. It's an utterly brutal, non-stop experiences of kills from beginning to end, but I do have to say, despite the fact that they very much are having a lot more kills in this, the quantity of kills in this is so much higher than the first film or even Terrifier 2, they don't sacrifice the quality of all those different kills either. The majority of the overall kills in Terrifier 3 are all quality, memorable sequences. As for the sequences I think are going to be the most controversial or the ones that get brought up the most, the opening sequence is probably going to be the first one just because it is quite nasty. But the grossest sequence of the whole film, the one that I do think kind of rivals that bedroom sequence in Terrifier 2, is a sequence in the shower. That was one where it was very hard to watch. I mean, there's a lot of sequences in this franchise that are hard to watch, but that might be the worst I've seen so far in this trilogy. Even despite the fact that I've never been a massive fan of the Terrifier franchise, I do think it's pretty awesome that Art the Clown has already kind of solidified himself as a modern horror icon, because we don't really have too many of those nowadays. When you think of like contenders now, you think of like Art the Clown or even Megan, I guess. Basically what I'm saying is that there aren't too many right now, but Art the Clown is very entertaining, and David Howard Thornton, I think, continues to shine even better in Terrifier 3. Out of the three entries, I think this is his most brilliant performance yet as the character. It's delightfully horrific how the film blends the sadistic, horrifying side of Art, but manages to still make him consistently hilarious with the situations he puts himself in, and the fact that he's doing all this with no dialogue. One sequence in particular really stands out to me, and that's when he meets Santa, that I was laughing hysterically at. Also, I will warn people ahead of time, although I'm pretty sure a lot of people kind of know that Terrifier likes to push the boundaries of the genre and what you can and can't do. Art the Clown, I think in this third entry, there are a handful of things in this one that I think he really pushes those boundaries of what's considered okay, without going into too much detail about it. One thing I do think is kind of cool, but also kind of frustrating about Art the Clown is the fact that I think he has interesting supernatural powers, but we still almost have no idea how this all works. I mean, we get kind of vague answers, I guess you could say, in this one, but we still have nothing definitive. Part of me does wonder if we're ever going to truly understand what the hell Art the Clown is all about. One of Terrifier 3's biggest strengths, and sometimes weaknesses actually, is how it continues building off the foundation of the second film and delving deeper into the lore of these characters, in particular around Sienna, dealing with her trauma from the last film. Sienna in Terrifier 2 was one of the major factors why I enjoyed Terrifier 2 so much. She was a really interesting, complex, badass final girl. Here in Terrifier 3, I think she does take her performance to the next level while we expand her character even further. Sienna now is a bit dark darker, more vengeful as the film tackles topics of trauma and how she copes with survivor's guilt. All of that culminates in yet another epic showdown between her and Art the Clown that I just have to say it's just truly epic. Admittedly though, I was kind of bummed out her brother didn't really get much of an expanded role. He still is of course in the movie, but given what he went through in Terrifier 2 along with Sienna, I was just hoping he would get a much more expanded role, and he just didn't. Depending on your feelings of Terrifier as a whole, Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2, this could be a positive or a negative, I suppose, because I do think Terrifier 3 has the best tonal balance of the trilogy. There's still the over-the-top elements of the supernatural from 2, but keeps it darker and gritty and pushing the limits of gory spectacle like we saw in the first Terrifier. And though I do think Art the Clown and Sienna are really interesting characters, I do think the story around them isn't the greatest. I do think the story is serviceable enough to be entertained, but it does try to attempt tackling some questions surrounding Vicky, who's much more integral to this entry. She's pretty nasty in her own right, and I was surprised to see her get more and more screen time. And then there's the stuff connecting to Sienna's father, the sword, and like I said before, Art's supernatural abilities and the fact that he's practically unstoppable. Don't get me wrong, I am intrigued to see where this story goes into the inevitable Terrifier 4, but it did become a little frustrating how this story creates even more questions to leave lingering for that inevitable fourth film. And I wish that they answered now instead of leaving me hanging on if they're going to actually answer those questions. Compared to the second film that had a staggeringly long runtime, I do think Terrifier 3 is far better paced. It still is a pretty steep runtime, especially since it's unrelenting violence from start to finish. There's basically a kill on screen every 5 to 10 minutes, so over time you do kind of become desensitized, realizing that it's sacrificing time to tell a better overall story to just increase the body count. Still, either way, I had a pretty fun time, and out of the 3 films in this trilogy, overall, it probably is my favorite of the 3. And with where we leave things off and the lingering questions and how it sets up a potential 4th film, which I am almost certain has already been confirmed at this point, they're working on it. Going forward, I definitely consider myself more of a fan of this franchise. But yeah, all around, Terrifier 3, I think is a pretty fun, brutal experience. It's the kind of entry that's not going to win over any new fans to the Terrifier franchise. If you're down for this franchise, it's just more of the things you're going to love, the non-stop carnage. Art the Clown is completely slaying here like he's never done before. Even despite the story being a little bit weak, it still is just entertaining enough that I think you're going to have a fun time with it if you're into this franchise at all. But once you get a chance to check out Terrifier 3, make sure you share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of the film? Did you like Terrifier 3? Did you not like Terrifier 3? As always, thank you guys so much for checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel. Something for reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. For the next time, I'll see you guys later.